It's nearly been 10 years since BioShock graced our shelves. With it, it's brought a somewhat new interpretation of minigames. I'm James Whitcomb, and today, you guessed it, we're talking about minigames. BioShock's hacking minigame is remembered fondly by many ex-players of the game. It didn't get in the way, instead it provided a nice break from the action. When successful, it always provided you with a voice tape with some juicy backstory or some more ammo. What BioShock's hacking minigame accomplished was a revival of minigames in the various genres of video games. When sat beside a bigger action-orientated story, traditionally it was thought not to work, until BioShock. 2K Games created a system in which you could hack enemies, vending machines, or a door or a lock. It was received well by many, sparking a 97% score from IGN, saying, "Hacking comes into play quite a bit. You'll find the system possesses quite a bit of depth." Alongside that, GameSpot with a 90% score saying, "The neat hacking minigame is allowing for more indirect combat options." The praise did not stop there, however, with other reviewers saying the minigame is an awful lot of fun in its own right, or like a game from the 70s. I would say it was viewed as a success, but why? I believe what BioShock did so successfully was add a minigame which was not mandatory but required to access all content, always benefited the player, and offered other ways for the player to play the game. The minigame was viewed as a roaring success, but sometimes this is not always the case. So, it should be reasonable to say that if a minigame does not fill any of these three components, then the public will react adversely. Fallout 4's lockpicking is another example. You're consistently rewarded for opening a lock, if that be through better gear, a legendary monster, or more endless junk. It benefits players, it offers another way to play, and you can get a companion to handle lockpicking in the main story, so it's not mandatory. It doesn't even take a different game to screw up, however. If we look at the Fallout 4 Far Harbor DLC and its memory puzzle minigame, when we look at this minigame, we can see that it is an integral part of the story. It doesn't, however, offer another way to play the game. It does benefit the player, but even so, it's not viewed favourably. It's deemed to be stunting the tempo of the story whilst trying to use the settlement placement tools instead of using a bespoke control set. Okay, let's test our hypothesis with some other games. First, Deus Ex and its hacking. Described by PC Gamer in its 94% review, the hacking is immediately smarter and more involved than any other previous Deus Ex game, which makes some decisions genuinely tough. That grants another way to play down. Alongside that, it is accompanied with your typical Deus Ex map design and an augment system which does not restrict the player by making the minigame mandatory. And similarly to all of the other games we've seen so far, the minigame gates extra content, making it only ever benefit the player. Secondly, the infamous minigame from Assassin's Creed. This minigame doesn't bother me personally, though I can see why people do get annoyed about it. That is, the escort missions in any Assassin's Creed games. For the uninitiated, the escort missions are a part of Assassin's Creed where you have to follow the target across the map. However, often the NPC does not move as quickly as you'd like. As you'd expect, you can find any manner of comment for the seemingly dull or unimaginative minigame, and yes, it is a minigame. If we look for stack exchanges as commonly agreed on definition, a minigame is part of a bigger game that could be independent from it, but is not. Its gameplay mechanics are simple, mastering them does not require extended practice. You may disagree with me, but part of the follow quests are a potentially independent part of a bigger game. That being said, it's only been agreed on by 2 people. The escort missions are mandatory in the main story. They do benefit the character, but do not add another aspect to gameplay. As such, it doesn't fill the full quota. And at last, let's look at a special case, The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt with Gwent. A perfect example of a minigame that, through its popularity, became something more. To save time, I filled in the chart already. So, regardless of fun or mechanics, despite the many different styles of minigames we've looked at, I'm confident in saying that these 3 rules of minigame implementation stand true. I'd love to also hear about any cases in which you think these rules are broken, but it's my belief that a minigame which benefits the game is the result of these rules. So with that, thanks for watching. If you're interested in what I'm doing, then please consider donating to my Patreon to follow my own game development. I'd like to thank Joel Mahoen on the Game Design subreddit for helping me come up with the basis of this video essay. I'll also add, if anyone is confused as to why I put the review scores in percentages, it was to help with the comparisons regardless of the review site's accuracy in their scores.